It isn't the biggest, and it isn't nuclear-powered, but it might just be one of the most important warships on the planet right now. This is the story of how China stopped copying and started building its own aircraft carriers. The vessel at the heart of this story is more than just a ship. It is a declaration cast in 65,000 tons of steel, a floating symbol of a nation's ambition to rule the waves. We're going to break down exactly what the aircraft carrier Shandong is, how it was built, and what it means for the future of naval warfare. To truly understand the Shandong, you have to rewind the clock. For decades, the very idea of a Chinese aircraft carrier was the stuff of military fiction, a distant dream for the People's Liberation Army Navy, or PLAN. For most of the late 20th century, the PLAN was a coastal defense force, a green water navy designed to protect China's immediate shores. Its fleet consisted primarily of smaller vessels, destroyers, frigates, and a significant submarine force, all tailored to a strategy of defending the mainland. The open ocean, the vast blue water where global powers project their influence, was the exclusive domain of others, most notably the United States Navy and its formidable carrier strike groups. An aircraft carrier is the ultimate tool of power projection. It's a mobile airbase, a 4.5-acre slice of sovereign territory that can be positioned anywhere in the world, bringing with it an air wing capable of striking targets hundreds of miles away. For China, watching from the sidelines, the desire for such a capability wasn't just about prestige, it was a core strategic necessity if it ever hoped to be considered a true global superpower. The first step on this long journey wasn't one of glorious shipbuilding, but of clever acquisition and painstaking study. In 1998, a Chinese company with links to the military purchased a curious, unfinished hulk from Ukraine. It was the former Soviet aircraft cruiser, the Varyag. Left to rust after the collapse of the Soviet Union, it was sold under the guise of being converted into a floating casino and hotel in Macau. Of course, almost no one believed that cover story. After a truly epic journey that saw it towed halfway around the world, being denied passage through the Suez Canal and forced to go the long way around Africa, the hull finally arrived in the Chinese port of Dalian in 2002. For the next decade, Chinese engineers swarmed over it. It was a massive reverse engineering project. They studied its design, its structure, its systems, and its flaws. This floating classroom was eventually completed, commissioned in 2012, and given a new name, Liaoning, or CV-16. The Liaoning was China's first ever aircraft carrier, but everyone, especially the PLAN, knew its limitations. It was a training ship, a platform to learn the incredibly complex and dangerous art of carrier aviation. It taught Chinese pilots how to land a speeding jet on a moving runway, and allowed the Navy to develop the doctrines and procedures necessary to operate a carrier. But the Liaoning was built on a 30-year-old Soviet hull. It was a stepping stone, not the destination. To truly join the ranks of the world's great navies, China needed to do something it had never done before: build its own aircraft carrier from the keel up. That monumental task began in earnest in the Dalian shipyards, the very same place where the Liaoning was reborn. Construction of what was then known as the Type 001A or Type 002 carrier started in 2013. The world watched via satellite imagery as, piece by piece, a new warship began to take shape. While it was based heavily on the design of its predecessor, it would share the same ski-jump takeoff system. This new vessel was no mere clone. The engineers in Dalian were not just copying, they were iterating, improving, and refining. They were applying the hard-won lessons learned from years of operating the Liaoning. This new ship was a product of Chinese industry, a testament to their growing confidence and capability. When it was launched in April of 2017 and later commissioned into the People's Liberation Army Navy on the 17th of December 2019, it was given the designation CV-17 and a powerful name, Shandong, after the coastal province. The Dragon had not only learned to walk with the Liaoning, with the Shandong, it was signaling its intent to run. This wasn't just a new ship, it was a new era for China's Navy. At first glance, the Shandong and its older sibling, the Liaoning, look remarkably similar. Both are large, conventionally powered carriers featuring the distinctive ski jump ramp at the bow, a hallmark of their shared Soviet design lineage. This system, known as STOBAR, for short takeoff but arrested recovery, allows aircraft to launch without the powerful steam or electromagnetic catapults used by American carriers. The pilot pushes the engines to full power, and the upward curve of the ramp essentially helps fling the aircraft into the air. But look closer, and the subtle but crucial differences begin to appear, revealing the Shandong as a significant evolution. One of the most noticeable changes is the island superstructure, the command tower that rises from the starboard side of the flight deck. On the Shandong, the island is visibly smaller, about 10% smaller to be precise, and has a more optimized, compact design. This might not sound like much, but on an aircraft carrier, every square foot of flight deck space is priceless real estate. A smaller island means more room for parking, arming and maneuvering aircraft, which directly translates into a higher sortie generation rate, to launch more planes more quickly. The shape of the flight deck itself was also refined. The edges were subtly reconfigured to provide more effective parking spots for the carrier's air wing, clearing the critical landing and takeoff areas. Internally, the lessons from the Liaoning were applied even more dramatically. The original Soviet design of the Varyag included massive anti-ship missile silos beneath the forward flight deck, a feature the plan had removed during the Liaoning's refit. In designing the Shandong from scratch, engineers were able to reclaim that entire space for more practical uses. This internal redesign allowed them to expand the hangar bay, creating enough space to carry more aircraft than the Liaoning. While exact numbers are classified, it's estimated that the Shandong can carry a maximum of around 44 aircraft, compared to the Liaoning's 36. This air group typically consists of up to 36 J-15 Flying Shark multi-role fighters, supplemented by a mix of Z-18 transport and anti-submarine warfare helicopters and Z-9 utility helicopters. This 8-aircraft increase, particularly in the number of valuable fighters, represents a substantial boost in the carrier's offensive and defensive power. The Shandong's electronic heart was also given a major upgrade. It was fitted with a more advanced AESA, or Active Electronically Scanned Array, radar system, specifically the Type 346A radar. This provides superior detection and tracking capabilities for both air and surface targets compared to the older system installed on the Liaoning. Think of it as upgrading from a standard definition television to a high-definition one. The picture is clearer, the details are sharper, and you can see things from much farther away. This allows the Shandong to be more self-sufficient in managing its own airspace and defending itself from threats. These improvements, taken together, transform the Shandong from a training platform into a fully fledged combat vessel. It was designed from day one with warfighting in mind. It can sustain flight operations more efficiently, carry a more potent air wing, and see the battlefield more clearly than its predecessor. It is, in every meaningful way, China's first true combat carrier, a warship built not just to learn, but to dominate. What do you think is the most critical part of an aircraft carrier? Is it the planes, the ship itself, or the crew that runs it all? It's a tough question, and the answer is probably a mix of all three. Let's get down to the raw numbers, the anatomy of this sea dragon. The Shandong displaces between 60 and 65,000 tons, putting it firmly in the category of a large aircraft carrier, though still significantly smaller than the 100,000-ton behemoths of the American Nimitz, or Ford classes. It measures approximately 1,005 feet in length with a beam of 246 feet. Below the waterline, its power comes from 8 conventional steam turbines, which drive 4 shafts. This propulsion system, while reliable, is a key differentiator from nuclear-powered American carriers. It gives the Shandong a top speed of around 31 knots, which is more than fast enough to keep pace with a modern strike group. But it also means the carrier is tethered to a logistical chain of fuel tankers for long-range deployments. It cannot stay at sea indefinitely in the way a nuclear carrier can. This reliance on conventional fuel is a strategic choice, likely driven by the complexity and cost of naval nuclear reactor technology, but it defines the operational range and endurance of the vessel. To protect itself, the Shandong is armed with a suite of close-in defensive weapons. This includes 3 Type 1130 CIWS, or close-in weapon systems. These are terrifying 11-barreled Gatling cannons that can spit out up to 11,030mm rounds per minute, designed to shred incoming anti-ship missiles or aircraft that get past the fleet's outer defenses. For threats at a slightly longer range, it carries 3 HQ-10 short-range air defense missile launchers. These are essentially fire-and-forget systems that can engage multiple targets simultaneously. However, it's crucial to remember that a carrier's primary defense is not its own guns and missiles. Its greatest defense and its primary weapon is its air wing and the escort ships of its strike group, the destroyers, frigates, and submarines that form a protective, multi-layered shield around it. The real teeth of the Shandong are its J-15 Flying Shark fighters. The J-15 is a carrier-based multi-role fighter, itself heavily derived from a prototype of the Russian Sukhoi Su-33. It's a large, powerful, twin-engine aircraft capable of air-to-air combat and ground attack missions. However, the J-15's effectiveness is directly impacted by the Shandong's STOBAR launch system. Because there is no catapult to fling the aircraft off the deck, the J-15s must take off under their own power using the ski jump. This method places significant limitations on the aircraft's maximum takeoff weight. In practical terms, this means a J-15 launching from the Shandong cannot carry a full load of fuel and a full complement of heavy munitions at the same time. It has to trade one for the other. This restricts its combat radius and the amount of punishment it can deliver in a single sortie compared to a catapult-launched aircraft like the American FA-18 Super Hornet. It's a fundamental performance trade-off baked into the carrier's very design. Life for the approximately 2,600 sailors and aviators aboard the Shandong is a world of controlled chaos. Living and working on an aircraft carrier is often described as operating a small city that also happens to be a floating airfield and a munitions depot. The crew works in grueling shifts to keep the ship running, the planes flying, and the mission on track. The improved habitability and internal layout of the Shandong, compared to the Spartan Soviet-era design of the Liaoning, were reportedly key considerations, acknowledging that the human element is just as critical as the hardware. Since its commissioning in late 2019, the Shandong has been anything but a hangar queen. The plan has aggressively worked to bring the carrier and its crew to full operational capability, moving far more quickly than many Western analysts predicted. Its early years were spent in the relatively safe confines of the Bohai Sea and the Yellow Sea, conducting basic flight qualifications and drills. This was the shakedown phase, ironing out the kinks in the new hardware and gelling the crew into an effective fighting unit. By 2020, it had achieved initial operational capability, and its deployments began to grow in scope and ambition. The carrier started venturing further, primarily into the contentious waters of the South China Sea. These deployments served a dual purpose. First, they were invaluable training opportunities, allowing the Shandong to practice operating in more complex environments and to begin forming a cohesive carrier strike group. Escort ships, typically Type 055 and Type 052D destroyers, along with Type 054A frigates and a nuclear-powered attack submarine, began to regularly accompany the carrier, practicing communication, coordination, and collective defense. The second purpose was geopolitical. Sailing a carrier strike group through the South China Sea, an area where China has extensive and disputed territorial claims, is a powerful act of naval diplomacy and intimidation. It's a visible statement of China's sovereignty claims and a clear signal to its neighbors and the United States. In my opinion, this rapid operational tempo was deliberately designed to send a message. China's carrier capability is real, and it is growing. The tempo of these operations has only increased. The Shandong has transited the Taiwan Strait on multiple occasions, actions that are always closely monitored and interpreted as direct pressure on Taipei. In 2023, the Shandong made headlines when it conducted a major exercise in the Western Pacific, east of Taiwan. During this deployment, its air wing reportedly conducted hundreds of sorties over several days. This was a significant milestone. It demonstrated the plan's growing ability to project air power beyond the so-called First Island chain, the string of islands that runs from Japan through Taiwan and the Philippines, which has traditionally been seen as a line of containment for China's navy. Even more significantly, the Shandong has begun to operate in tandem with the Liaoning. The sight of two Chinese carrier strike groups operating in the same theater is a powerful image and a new strategic reality. While not yet on the scale of the multi-carrier operations routinely conducted by the United States Navy, these dual-carrier drills are a clear indicator of the plan's future doctrine. They allow for continuous 24-hour flight operations and provide a level of redundancy and combat power that a single carrier cannot match. The Shandong's operational history, though still short, has been marked by a deliberate and rapid push to demonstrate and expand its capabilities. It has graduated from a naval novelty to a frontline strategic asset. But as its power grew, so too did the questions about how it would be used, and the world was about to see that the era of a single superpower ruling the Pacific waves was definitively over. So what is the grand strategy behind the Shandong and China's burgeoning carrier fleet? It's a multi-layered plan that fundamentally alters the security landscape of the Indo-Pacific. At its most basic level, the Shandong serves as the centerpiece of a powerful naval formation designed to assert control over China's near seas, particularly the South China Sea and the waters around Taiwan. In a potential conflict over Taiwan, the Shandong's role would be critical. It could sail to the east of the island, establishing a blockade and providing air cover to an invasion force. Its J-15 fighters could intercept Taiwanese air assets and strike ground targets, while its presence would force the United States and its allies to contend with a significant threat, complicating any intervention. The carrier acts as a key component of China's broader anti-access area denial, or A2/AD strategy. This strategy is designed to make it too dangerous and costly for an adversary, namely the US Navy, to operate close to the Chinese mainland. By positioning a carrier strike group in the region, protected by a screen of advanced destroyers and submarines, and operating under the umbrella of land-based carrier-killer ballistic missiles like the DF-21D, China creates a formidable, layered defense that any approaching force would have to fight its way through. Beyond a direct conflict scenario, the Shandong is a potent tool for peacetime power projection. When it sails through international waters, conducts exercises with other nations, or simply makes its presence felt in a region, it's a constant reminder of China's growing military might. This has a coercive effect on smaller nations in the region, influencing their foreign policy calculations and bolstering China's diplomatic leverage. It challenges the decades-long naval supremacy of the United States in the Pacific, forcing the US Navy to account for a new and credible peer competitor. This forces a dispersal of American assets and stretches resources, which is a strategic victory in itself for Beijing. However, it's crucial to place the Shandong in its proper context. It is a stepping stone, a vital but transitional piece of technology. The ski-jump launch system, with its inherent weight restrictions for aircraft, is a significant limitation compared to the catapult systems on American carriers. This is a gap in capability that the PLAN is acutely aware of and is actively working to close. The future of Chinese naval aviation is already under construction. Moored at a dock in Shanghai is the Type 003 carrier, the Fujian. This next-generation vessel is a massive leap forward. It is larger than the Shandong, and most importantly, it ditches the ski jump in favor of an advanced electromagnetic catapult system similar to the one on the US Navy's latest Ford-class carriers. This CATOBAR, or catapult-assisted takeoff but arrested recovery, system will allow the Fujian to launch a wider variety of heavier aircraft, including new stealth fighters and airborne early warning and control aircraft with full loads of fuel and weapons. The Fujian, once operational, will represent a carrier capability that is far closer to that of the United States. The Shandong, therefore, occupies a critical middle ground. It is the ship that is bridging the gap, allowing the PLAN to perfect its carrier operations and build a cadre of experienced sailors and aviators while the next generation of technology matures. It is the ship that is making China a true two-carrier navy right now, fundamentally changing the strategic calculus in the present day. The aircraft carrier Shandong is far more than just a piece of military hardware. It is the physical embodiment of a nation's ambition and a tangible measure of its industrial and technological progress. From the initial, almost clandestine purchase of an old Soviet hulk to the independent design and construction of this 65,000-ton warship, the journey represents a deliberate and impressively rapid rise in naval power. The Shandong is not a perfect weapon. Its conventional power plant limits its endurance, and its ski-jump launch system places real constraints on the power of its air wing compared to its American counterparts. Historians and analysts will likely look back on it as a transitional design, a bridge between China's first tentative steps with the Liaoning and its future as a top-tier naval power with the catapult-equipped Fujian and beyond. But to dismiss it as merely a stepping stone would be a grave mistake. Right now, in the present day, the Shandong is a real and potent threat. It has allowed the People's Liberation Army Navy to become a credible dual-carrier force, doubling its capacity for power projection and sustained operations. It serves as the mobile, sovereign centerpiece of a strategy designed to dominate the South China Sea and to complicate any foreign intervention in a regional conflict. It has provided the training ground for the thousands of sailors and aviators who will form the backbone of China's future carrier fleet. In the grand chess game of global geopolitics, the Shandong is one of China's most powerful pieces. It announces to the world that the blue waters of the Pacific are no longer the exclusive domain of a single power and that a new dragon has truly learned to master the sea. The Shandong represents a massive leap in capability, but its successors like the Fujian promise even more. What do you think the next big technological jump will be for China's Navy after they master catapults? Let us know your theories and predictions down in the comments. And while you're strategizing, consider reinforcing our naval division by hitting that subscribe button. The Animated General needs every capable mind on deck for the campaigns to come.